Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Brian Leeners from Homerun Resources. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. How you doing?
Brian, you have literally put out half a dozen news releases in less than 12 days into December. So let's start with the most recent one, your financings. You've announced the 6 million, and then you just announced the closing of another 3 million. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I mean, we worked on that 6 million for a while because, as you know, through the discussions we've had, Tracy, that was the first of its kind relative to the TSX Venture Exchange where we trade in Canada. So from that perspective, it took us a while working with the funding institution and working with the senior members of the exchange and then through the analyst process to get that done. I'm actually expecting a fee from any other TSX Venture company that follows us, because I know their process is probably going to take 30 to 60 days versus ours, which took almost 6 months. And then we had the follow-on financing, the 3 million after that. A significant portion of the second tranche, which was roughly a 1.5 million, which we announced we've closed. That 1.5 was sort of subject to the 6 million, which is fairly normal in those circumstances. So now we've closed both of those and moving forward. And the news releases are really just a demonstration that we're not capital dependent relative to moving the company forward. Our business is really focused on brain power relative to execution, on planning. And so from that perspective, you know, we don't have to wait for money to drill holes. We're now making payments relative to those funds, but we moved everything forward in a timely manner.
And for those of you out there that are going, tell us more about Homerun. Can you give us a quick overview? And I just, want to share that you are a rising star in the critical mineral sector, silica. So if you could just give us kind of a quick overview.
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand the role of silica first, because that demonstrates the value of the company. So from that perspective, silica is a pyramid priced, pyramid quality product. It's not like copper, gold, or silver, where it all comes out at one purity relative to whoever's mining it. There's only one market, one purity. So from that perspective, silica has multiple markets depending on the quality. It's a very logistically intense business because unlike gold, where you're moving grams and ounces, in the case of silica, you're moving the entirety of the resource, generally speaking. So logistics is a big component of cost of goods sold. We are really, really lucky to be sitting on a very, very unique silica deposit. And those levels, those qualities of silica, those are going into high-end industrial glass, high-end energy use, high-end technology use. And that's been our focus since day one. We'll continue to focus on that. Some people wanted us to just sell the silica for as cheap a price as possible and make $5 a ton. As I've stated since day one, we're not going to do that. That just creates competition. And silica is really, it's probably the most unrecognized critical material. It's a key component, for instance, in solar, from the perspective of not only the glass, but also the silicon that is the essence of solar. It's becoming a key component in battery materials. It's obviously a key component in many other industrial aspects relative to technology and high-end optical use like optical fiber. So from that perspective, it has a lot of use case within the context of these higher end areas, and it's a key component of electrification of the planet.
And of course, that brings me right into my favorite topic when Homerun comes to mind, which is the manufacturing of antimony-free solar glass. And yesterday you put out news about having positive results. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, we worked with an Italian group who are really, really preeminent in the glass business in particular. Their testing lab in Italy, they have operations all over the place, but their testing lab in Italy is one of the best. They're right up there with Dorfner Anzaplan relative to what they do. They specifically focus on glass, obviously, based on where they come from. And it was really exciting to get them to confirm what we already knew, but get them to confirm that we have incredibly high quality silica sitting in the ground. What was really interesting is they've now confirmed third-party testing that washing, sorting, and agitating that product, which are the front end of processing in the silica space. Silica has a variety of different extended processing mechanisms to get it to higher grade. But we get to solar glass just on those three things, which is, extracting the silica, putting it through a wash cycle, putting it through a sort cycle so it's the right size for the furnace, and agitating that to get off the external elements. And agitation is just rubbing the grains against each other so that those external impurities are removed. So that's super exciting. That's probably the only silica on the planet that has, that pathway to scale relative to the solar glass space.
Speaking of exciting, you had news earlier this month, which you have done on the Enduring Thermal Energy Storage Global Intellectual Property Agreement. It's quite a mouthful. Can you walk us through this deal?
Yeah, we've been working with NREL for 2 years. The first aspect of that was we recognized the opportunity within their larger system to purify silica through the process of calcination, which is heating it up, to somewhere around 1,000 degrees Celsius. So that was the first step. We've now filed intellectual property relative to working with NREL on that step. And in that process of working with them for 2 years, we developed a pretty good relationship. And we've now extended that relationship into a global IP license. And we have the option of what that looks like from a jurisdiction by jurisdiction perspective. And so, we can pick a jurisdiction and then negotiate what the royalty terms would be relative to that jurisdiction. So that's a real progress point between us and them. The commercial aspects of that system, the first commercial focus will be on what we call modular systems, sort of the 1 megawatt times unit style system. And we'll be working on that with them. Preliminary work this year, and then getting more heavy commercial detail and manufacturing concepts probably the year after. So it's a longer term project, but thermal energy storage and has unique aspects within that sort of whole segment of energy storage, which covers a variety of different technologies. Most people are familiar with lithium ion batteries being in that space, but there's a variety of different techniques. Thermal energy storage is really well, in particular, where you've got a end use case that needs heat as well as electricity. That's really where it has really high efficiencies, north of 90%. And then also big scale. So if you're looking at centralized or decentralized energy storage at a big scale, the 100 megawatt style, which is where we're headed, by the way. You're looking at that as a competitive advantage relative to CapEx, OpEx, and ongoing need to maintain the system. Those are all low relative to its peers.
And I'm certain that there's people out there that would be very interested in how the Alliance for Sustainable Energy LLC is the operator for the Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Can you explain that to your shareholders for us?
Yeah, I mean, that news release is probably about 1/3 just corporate entities. To simplify that, you've got the U.S. Department of Energy. Underneath that, they have a variety of research labs that are placed in different locations in the United States. There's one in Washington State, obviously. NREL's in Colorado. NREL's kind of the most famous of those because it's been around for years in the renewable energy space. But the other ones work on other things related to energy. And the way that they own those assets or control those assets is it's U.S. Department of Energy, and then Alliance is a corporate entity, a public-owned corporate entity that sits over top of the research institute that is NREL in Colorado. So it's just a corporate structure they have. So when we sign a deal, we don't do it with NREL, we do it with Alliance.
And of course, as you've been putting out all these announcements, your team is obviously growing. You just announced the engagement of Yuri Skopek. Can you tell us more about what he'll be doing with the team?
Yeah, Yuri's a godfather and rock star in the energy space, in particular relative to energy management systems. So sort of looking at a global aspect of how you coordinate these various assets relative to solving problems. He's published in this space. He's had a long career. He's a fellow Canadian, which is cool. And he's really the first person that we brought into our side of Homerun Energy USA, which is the corporate entity that has that IP from NREL. And Yuri's job is to identify, and he's already been working on that for a period of time, identify use cases that are sort of the low-hanging fruit relative to what we want to do to commercialize and monetize that system. And obviously, everybody is knowledgeable of what's going on in data centers. That system has excellent application to data centers relative to the fact, as I said previously, its better efficiencies are dealing with heat outputs and also with electricity outputs. And the heat aspect, obviously, can be reversed into cooling. So I'll leave that to the engineers out there, but we can solve a few of the problems that data centers have. The biggest issue in the data center build out, and you saw that there was an article out of the development team at Google, their data center development team, and they were talking about how I think it was Google, it might have been Microsoft, but they were talking about how they're good to go with energy connectivity on their data footprint relative to 2028, but they had literally no optics. Like the guy said, "What's your biggest fear?" He goes, "We have no optics on any energy generation for our data center build after 2028. I think that's pretty common. The utilities are tapped. And so what's going to happen here is you're going to see these data centers looking for self-generation, building systems behind the grid so that they don't have to be reliant on grid connectivity to run their businesses. And I think we'll see that, that's where the AI investment is today. It's in those data centers and the energy systems. That's why AI companies are going down, because the CapEx involved in building that is substantive. It has to be done, but it's substantive over a short period of time. So as the BlackRock guy said, we're investing in the picks and shovels of AI instead of AI itself.
Well, an international company, you're now listing on TradeGate. You just recently announced it. So I want you to comment on that. But also, can you tell us what we should anticipate, say, in January? Normally, I ask people what we should be looking forward to in the upcoming quarter. But considering how many news releases we've seen in December, what should we be looking forward to in the new year?
That's going to be a continuing path. As you and I have talked before, we go through these high density news cycles. That's starting to get more continuity relative to the fact that we're a vertically integrated company. What we're most proud about in 2025, and I don't think that's really hit home with everybody, is that we've effectively executed the plan in all four of those verticals. And now it's just executing those verticals towards revenue. So what I'm most excited about in 2026 is moving towards that revenue path, that cash flow path that everybody's looking for. I think the biggest thing that's coming in the first quarter, not to get too granular on news releases that are coming, but the biggest thing that's coming in the first quarter will be the BFS. And Tracy, you understand the Lassonde curve really well. We've been in that Lassonde curve. We spent 18 months going across what I call the valley of death. We're now on the other side of that. The transition point, if you look at any image related to the Lassonde curve, is a bankable feasibility study. So the delivery of that bankable feasibility study from a third-party engineering group, which is coming in the first quarter, that's really a transition event relative to the solar glass plant. And that's the biggest thing that we're working on, is that solar glass plant. I think we'll see some interesting initiatives relative to our energy management system that's quietly rolling along. We'll continue to build out the people that are required and the development of the NREL enduring energy storage system, and start targeting use cases and pilots in that regard. And then on the silica side, we're chatting with some potential partners relative to larger relationships where we're not reinventing the wheel. If people don't understand Brian Leeners after the last 3 years, they better. And one of the things that I can't stand is redundancy. So from that perspective, there are a lot of really good companies out there globally that are in the materials business, both acquisition and supply. They may not have those materials, but they go out and source those materials through offtake. So we're looking at those types of relationships in order to address regions and industries, and build up that industrial business, and then slowly start moving into the highly processed silica, which based on the work that came out from Dorfner-Anzaplan in the last week, we have lots of options relative to hitting a whole pile of those high-end markets. Some of them have variety in how that silica needs to be processed. So we'll be identifying which of those are the low-hanging fruit and which of those, and to define that, that means large market versus low capex, right? That's the matrix. And then when we've done that, it's about marketing that product. We've got lots of relationships already built over the last couple of years from incoming interest in opportunities in that higher end product, that 99.99 plus.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I have to say, I have to commend you and your team on your excellent website. So for those of you interested in finding out more information, I mean, I just wrote a story about antimony-free solar glass yesterday. I used your website for information and data. So thank you for joining us, Brian. We look forward to an amazing 2026 for Homerun Resources.
Thank you, Tracy, and shout out to Tyler because that website's under his control and authority. I don't touch it because he'll probably spank me. But the reality is, he does all that work. He secures all that information. It comes from our team and elsewhere, but he does a great job. And happy holidays to you, Tracy, and to your team and your family.